Section 57 of Essays, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Martin Geeson. Essays, Book 1, by Michel de Montaigne. Translated by Charles Cotton. Of Age. I cannot allow of the way in which we settle for ourselves the duration of our life. I see that the sages contract it very much in comparison of the common opinion. What, said the younger Cato to those who would stay his hand from killing himself, am I now of an age to be reproached that I go out of the world too soon? And yet he was but 48 years old. He thought that to be a mature and advanced age, considering how few arrive unto it. And such as, soothing their thoughts with I know not what course of nature, promised themselves some years beyond it, could they be privileged from the infinite number of accidents to which we are by a natural subjection exposed, they might have some reason so to do. What an idle conceit is it to expect to die of a decay of strength, which is the effect of extremest age, and to propose to ourselves no shorter lease of life than that, considering it is a kind of death of all others the most rare and very seldom seen. We call that only a natural death, as if it were contrary to nature to see a man break his neck with a fall, be drowned in shipwreck, be snatched away with a pleurisy or the plague, and as if our ordinary condition did not expose us to these inconveniences. Let us no longer flatter ourselves with these fine words. We ought rather, peradventure, to call that natural which is general, common, and universal. To die of old age is a death rare, extraordinary, and singular, and therefore so much less natural than the others. 'Tis the last and extremest sort of dying, and the more remote, the less to be hoped for. It is indeed the bourne beyond which we are not to pass, and which the law of nature has set as a limit, not to be exceeded. But it is withal a privilege she is rarely seen to give us, to last till then. 'Tis a lease she only signs by particular favour, and it may be to one only in the space of 2 or 3 ages, and then with a pass to boot to carry him through all the traverses and difficulties she has strewed in the way of this long career. And therefore my opinion is, that when once 40 years, we should consider it as an age to which very few arrive. For seeing that men do not usually proceed so far, it is a sign that we are pretty well advanced. And since we have exceeded the ordinary bounds, which is the just measure of life, we ought not to expect to go much further. Having escaped so many precipices of death, whereinto we have seen so many other men fall, we should acknowledge that so extraordinary a fortune as that which has hitherto rescued us from those eminent perils, and kept us alive beyond the ordinary term of living, is not like to continue long. 'Tis a fault in our very laws to maintain this error. These say that a man is not capable of managing his own estate till he be 25 years old, whereas he will have much ado to manage his life so long. Augustus cut off 5 years from the ancient Roman standard, and declared that 30 years old was sufficient for a judge. Servius Tullius superseded the knights of above 47 years of age from the fatigues of war. Augustus dismissed them at 45. though methinks it seems a little unreasonable that men should be sent to the fireside till 55 or 60 years of age. I should be of opinion that our vocation and employment should be as far as possible extended for the public good. I find the fault on the other side, that they do not employ us early enough. This emperor was arbiter of the whole world at 19, and yet would have a man to be 30 before he could be fit to determine a dispute about a gutter. For my part, I believe our souls are adult at 20 as much as they are ever like to be, and as capable then as ever. A soul that has not by that time given evident earnest of its force and virtue will never after come to proof. The natural qualities and virtues produce what they have of vigorous and fine within that term, or never. Si l'épine non pique qu'en est, à peine que pique jamais. If the thorn does not prick at its birth, 'twill hardly ever prick at all, as they say in Dauphiné. Of all the great human actions I ever heard or read of what sort soever, I have observed, both in former ages and our own, more were performed before the age of 30 than after; and this oft times in the very lives of the same men. May I not confidently instance in those of Hannibal and his great rival Scipio? The better half of their lives they lived upon the glory they had acquired in their youth. Great men after, 'tis true, in comparison of others, but by no means in comparison of themselves. As to my own particular, I do certainly believe that since that age both my understanding and my constitution have rather decayed than improved, and retired rather than advanced. 'Tis possible that with those who make the best use of their time, knowledge and experience may increase with their years, but vivacity, promptitude, steadiness, and other pieces of us, of much greater importance, and much more essentially our own, languish and decay. Ubi iam validis quasato est viribus aevi corpus, et obtusis ceciderunt viribus artus, claudicat ingenium, delirat linguaque, mensque. When once the body is shaken by the violence of time, blood and vigour ebbing away, the judgment halts, the tongue and the mind dote. Lucretius, Book 3, line 452. Sometimes the body first submits to age, sometimes the mind; and I have seen enough who have got a weakness in their brains before either in their legs or stomach, and by how much the more it is a disease of no great pain to the sufferer, and of obscure symptoms, so much greater is the danger. For this reason it is that I complain of our laws, not that they keep us too long to our work, but that they set us to work too late. For the frailty of life considered, and to how many ordinary and natural rocks it is exposed, one ought not to give up so large a portion of it to childhood, idleness, and apprenticeship. Editorial note, which Cotton thus renders: birth, though noble, ought not to share so large a vacancy, and so tedious a course of education. Florio, 1613, makes the passage read as follows: Methinks that considering the weakness of our life, and seeing the infinite number of ordinary rocks and natural dangers it is subject unto, we should not, as soon as we come into the world, allot so large a share thereof unto unprofitable wantonness in youth, ill-breeding idleness, and slow learning prenticage. End of section 57. Recording by Martin Geeson in Haslemere, Surrey. End of Essays, Book 1, by Michel de Montaigne. Translated by Charles Cotton.